Holster mount related questions are one of the most common questions we get, and while we have several videos on the different mount options, I think discussing the how and the why of when to select a drop mount would be helpful. I'm Brent with Hammer Armament. Let's dig into it. Drop mounts, or drop and offset mounts, simply lower the ride height of your holster, either with the purpose of getting a more efficient height for your draw, such as in a competition setting, or to make sure that you have clearance for chest mounted gear, such as plate carriers, chest rigs, or tack vests. While it should be obvious, it's worth noting that these are not for concealment. Let's go over some of the competition options first, then we'll hit the tactical oriented versions after that. Whether you want a drop mount is all going to depend on your arm length to torso length ratio, and also whatever rule set you might be adherent to. But generally, most people are going to want at least a little bit of a drop for the optimal draw. Ideally, with your hands relaxed at your sides, you want the grip of your gun to ride just a little bit higher than your wrists. This keeps your gun at a pretty good spot regardless of any angle you might have to draw from. Too low and you might have to reach for it, and it might break the rules. Too high and your hand has to move a long ways before you can start acquiring your firing grip. It can make for a bit of an awkward draw. It's usually not too bad, but if you find yourself leaning to one side when you draw, that's a good sign that you should think about adjusting your ride height. A good drop mount will also allow for some angle adjustments as well, such as with our competition drop mount option. I like to have the muzzle slightly angled forward, but this will depend on your gun and its grip angle, ride height, etc. Though you generally don't want it angled to the rear. This is pretty fucked up and you'll have your draw looking like you learned it from a 1990s CBS detective drama. Basically what you want is a holster position that allows for the simplest draw as possible. The beep goes off, your hand moves the least amount as possible to grab the gun, and it moves in the most efficient path up to your eye line. No leaning or theatrics needed nor wanted. We prefer our competition mount, but there are a few others that work very well also, such as the Boss Hanger from the Ben Stoker Pro Shop or the Henning Group T1000. A few reasons we like ours is because it very securely mounts to the belt. It has ride height and cant adjustments, so you can kind of dial it right into your liking. It has a bit of an offset from the body as well, and it works with both Safariland and Blade Tech mounting hole patterns, which is the two most common for holsters. Using the top two outer holes and the lowest hole is the strongest, and it reduces the risk of holster fatigue in the mounting area, causing breakages down the line. All of our holster designs work with this method. You don't want to go too far forward with the angle of your holster because you want to be able to draw basically straight up, and you don't want to be having to draw kind of backwards to get out of the holster. You just want to have it, you can still kind of just come up straight and then move to the target, and you're not having to pull backwards and then go outwards. What about tactical holsters? Well, it's pretty much going to be the same thing, though accomplished a little bit differently. Generally, it's going to be a plastic mount rather than aluminum, and they're designed to work with duty belts rather than competition belts. They usually aren't adjustable for ride height either, though they seem to work well for most people kind of as is. In this case, the ride height isn't just for the optimal ride height for the draw speed, but it also makes sure that your draw clears your plate carrier, chest rig, tech vest as well. Our favorite version is the Blade Tech mount on duty drop. It's adjustable for different size belts, so it's not all loosey-goosey on your belt, and you can change the angle of the holster a little bit, in addition to being a quick release system, which is pretty handy. These tactical style belts are often used with an upper thigh strap to keep the holster secure while running around doing all the cool guy tactical things. But this is not to be confused with the late 90s, early 2000s trend of thigh rigs, where the holster was worn in the thigh area with a long strap connecting it to the belt. This is a really bad idea that frankly took way too long to die out. The drop mount attached to the belt through a polymer mount and an upper thigh strap is much more secure, yet allows for greater mobility. Unless you're a prostitute in an 1800s brothel, a thigh holster probably isn't a good idea. So why don't competition mounts have thigh straps? Competition belts tend to be much more rigid than tactical or duty style belts, and the aluminum mounts also tend to be more rigid than the polymer versions. So the more rigid components generally mitigate a lot of the flex that occurs that might make one want to desire a thigh strap to fix it. So to recap, a drop mount will generally allow for better ride height that is more comfortable, convenient, and allows for a smoother draw. A competition or performance focused holster does well with our competition mount, as you can adjust the ride height and the angle. Tactical or duty holsters work well with the Blade Tech duty drop mount, which does come with a leg strap if you so desire. If you have any questions, drop a comment below or hit me up in the email in the description box. Thanks for watching.